A few days ago, we got an update on Anbennar's CK3 release. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and I figured I would just share it with you guys. For those of you who don't know what Anbennar is, it's a fantasy total conversion mod for EU4, another Paradox game. It takes place in the what they describe as Noble Dark World of Anbennar, which in setting both describes the word, which means communion in Elvish, and the empire of humans, elves, dwarves, and I think a couple other races like gnomes. Basically, it's a fantasy Holy Roman Empire, from what I can understand. This video will be talking about that post, but also some of the lore, so you can understand what the hell I'm talking about, because I know I've never talked about this on the channel before, and there's not a whole lot of information about the lore out there in the public sphere as far as YouTube goes, so hopefully this will help you get some context and get excited about this mod, because I'm really pumped. The CK3 version of Anbennar, much like After the End CK3 version, looks to be differentiating itself with its predecessor, in this case the EU4 counterpart, by taking players to the year 1022. Now for reference, Anbennar in EU4 takes place in the year 1444 during a very much early Renaissance period style. It eventually progresses to that point. Before I proceed, I'd like to make it clear that this information is pulled directly from the EU4 Anbennar primer or the wiki itself, which I will link both below, of course. Now, I don't know a ton about this setting, but I know chronologically Anbennar's calendar begins after the Day of Ashen Skies in the year 0, which is was essentially a major calamity that originated in the elven continent of Alentir and forced most of the elves to flee their homes and travel by sea in something known as the Remnant Fleet, where they remained for about 1,000 years just wandering the seas trying to find a new home until they were trapped essentially in a superstorm and most of their ships were destroyed. They were then led to the continent of Canor with what ships they had left by their navigator Munas Moonsinger and landed on the Isle of Demiria, which you can see here on the CK3 map in this bay known as the Dame's Head because of its shape. On this island they met the Queen of Demiria, who was the chosen of the Moon Goddess, or the Dame as she's also called. The Queen, despite it being the middle of winter and being low on supplies, welcomed the elves, provided for them, and at the behest of the Moon Goddess married Munas Moonsinger, and together they formed the first of the half-elven silver families in Anbennar, the House of Silmuna. Following this, the newly arrived elves were pretty much tossed into the Inferno, as the War of the Sorcerer King, which had begun around 978, was reaching its breaking point. The war had begun when Castanor, the oldest human empire in Canor, began invading the continent indiscriminately. The elves' magic is essentially what helped turn the tide in favor of those not wishing to be subjugated by a mad king, but it was revealed sometime in 1015 that the Castanor Emperor Castan had been bewitched by his royal advisor Nicmer, who usurped Castan, and then with his empire of Black Castanor battled with the free peoples of the continent until eventually he was overrun and defeated. It was a bit more harrowing than that. I'm obviously summarizing. The devs themselves equate it to the War of the Last Alliance in the Second Age of Middle-earth, if you wanted some context. Now, I know that's a bunch of information in a pretty short span of time, and I don't usually like lore dumping like that, but it was necessary to give you the basic overview of where we are in the story right now. The year is 1022, the elves having only just arrived 22 years before, and Black Castanor having basically only just fallen a few years prior to our current start. There's some incredibly notable historical figures from the lore you'll get to play as, like King Marion, firstborn of Demiria, who is literally the first half-elf in history. Now, obviously, Anbennar has a huge timeline of events from 1022 AD to its EU4 start, and at present, it's unclear how much of this will be brought over to the CK3 version. I would assume it's all planned, although that's like a 400-year span, and there's a lot of stuff that would have to be done. I'm excited to see what they do. I'm very curious about that, but obviously I wouldn't expect them to do it all in the near future. Aside from the obvious Marion, the post showcases various other important figures of the time, like Phoenix Emperor Jahir, who ruled the aforementioned Sun Elves, or Baron Barry of Amberflow, who seeks to brew the perfect ale. The post mentions their plans for the upcoming CK3 DLC, like Plague, which will bring a disease known as the White Pestilence, which is essentially a zombie plague that was stopped around 1053 by the half-elven hero Aldressia, while for Landless they hope to provide a true D&D-like experience in world. Now, obviously everybody's really excited about all of the DLC because there's so much potential, obviously. We've talked about that already on the channel in a video, but I think that Anbennar is a setting that can really benefit from some of these as well, being a fantasy setting that I think will benefit a lot from those systems. Now, the post also mentions that most of the more fantastical races in setting, like the Gnolls or the Harpies, which are some fan favorites, do not currently have models, which makes sense. That would take some time. Of course, they're working on that as well, but they have partnered with the EK2 team, which we know, we love Elder Kings 2 over here, to bring kobolds to life. And honestly, I think it's a pretty good looking model. To be honest, they seem to have morphed the Argonians into more of a kobold shape. And from what I've gathered from the post, the mod will release into its 1.0 version once the kobold models are completed, which likely means that the other races will be placeholders at launch. And that's really all we got so far. It's an exciting update. I really wanted to share this with you. I'm very, very pumped to see Anbennar come to Crusader Kings 3. I would love to cover it. I would love to cover its chronological timeline. Unfortunately, I don't play EU4. I don't plan on playing EU4. It's just one of those games that I feel like I don't have the time to learn or get into. So I'm sort of just waiting for it to come over, and then don't you worry, we'll be talking about that lore too. You know I love that juicy lore, and it's got a ton of it. I could go through the wiki, but I really need that visual aid, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to follow along with the project, I will link their Discord, which is linked in the Reddit post, which is also linked. I'm linking as much as humanly possible. I am linking everything. You get my sources, you get my music, you get everything. I try to put it all in the description, so if you're ever curious as to where that is, just look there. As always, if you like the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, as it lets me and YouTube know you like this sort of content and you'd like to see more of it. You know I have to say it every time because people could forget. If you like my content and if you'd like to support me and support the channel, you can consider becoming a channel member. We have 2 membership tiers, Squires and Knights. You can see those from the membership tab and see what sort of benefits and perks you get from that. And that is going to be it for me. A little short one today, this morning, this beautiful Monday here in February, but I hope that you have a wonderful week. I hope that you enjoy this video. I hope this video finds you happy and excited because I'm super excited for another fantasy total conversion mod. And yeah, that's it for this one. I'm Soul. This has been Anbennar's preview, I guess, and I will happily see you in the next one.